Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star Part 224 based on novel. So let's start. Skywolf overlooked Luo Feng from the throne while a trace of amusement flashed in its eyes. His voice was echoing in the entire palace. Human, you should have figured out that I ask you here because I want to buy the anonymous account sensor from you. And you should know how much I want to connect to the outer world after being detained here for such a long time. You're from the demon race, and I'm from the human race. Luo Feng said as he looked up at Skywolf. You should know that our races were hostile against each other and that the virtual universe will reject your consciousness. You can't enter the virtual universe even if you had the sensor. Souls and elements of consciousness were fundamentally different between races. The virtual universe belonged to humans. Lots of creatures from the demon race, the bug race, and the automation race wanted to use the virtual universe to convey their messages. However, the races deemed as enemies to humans couldn't connect to the virtual universe. Even the other barbarian races who were not hostile against humans would be restricted and monitored while using the virtual universe. Silver Eye, for example, was a special creature and would still be able to use the virtual universe, although he had limited access authority. I understand that, Skywolf said. He looked at Luo Feng. However, you should also know that my servants are able to do that. 2 of my servants are from the sister races of humans, and they are able to enter it. Where's your previous sensor? Luo Feng asked. These sneaky enemies of the barbarian races would try everything to utilize the humans' virtual universe, which was quite handy. Thus, they could usually acquire the sensor. Something went wrong, thus the access authority was taken away, Skywolf said. No wonder. Luo Feng grinned. The monitor was especially sensitive and determined, and no matter how they tried to conceal the fact that they were using human slaves or barbarian slaves from the Hong Alliance to connect to the virtual universe, their access authorities would be stripped right away once a clue was found. Meanwhile, the access authority of the sensor would be taken away. What was worse, it would use the coordinates to capture the phony. As a result, countless numbers of individuals belonging to the barbarian races had been captured and killed. However, the 5 peak races were still trying to establish intelligence networks through the virtual universe. I don't have the sensor, Luo Feng said, shaking his head. This lie may work on others, but my race has been fighting yours forever. Do you really think I'll buy that? Skywolf was gazing at Luo Feng. You can certainly make a sensor using the artificial intelligence you're carrying. The most important thing is the access authority. And you're more than qualified to apply for an anonymous account. Skywolf kept overlooking Luo Feng. Relax, he continued. I don't want to give you a hard time. You know that there is a plethora of intelligence systems for espionage built by the barbarian races. Although it's difficult to be detected, the destruction of an intelligence system spells huge losses. Regardless, there are still so many barbarian races trying to build one intelligence system after another. Skywolf stared at Luo Feng. It doesn't matter if I'm added, as there are so many of them, right? Skywolf gazed down at Luo Feng. There's no point hiding my intention because you can easily guess it, Skywolf said. Yes, I want out. Although I'm not sure whether the intelligence system is still there or not, I still want to take my chances. I want out. And you think I'll help a barbarian? Luo Feng said. Not help, but a deal, Skywolf said. The anonymous sensor is easy to get, so selling one to me is not a crime. Besides, you're not helping me send a message. Rather, the only thing you will do is to sell an account. Innumerable accounts are being sold throughout the human race every day, and some of them are purchased secretly by the barbarian race. Luo Feng stared right back at him. Skywolf was correct. It was commonplace to resell the accounts. I won't take it for granted, Skywolf said. I'm willing to trade it for 1 treasure. Treasure? Luo Feng lifted his eyebrow. How generous you are. Skywolf lifted its hoof, beside which appeared a black stone stick. On the two sides of it were beautiful sculptures, which made it look more like a piece of art than a weapon. However, the force it emanated filled the entire palace. "One treasure for one anonymous censor," said Sky Wolf. Sky Wolf watched Luo Feng. Yet Luo Feng was silent. "You can have as many censors as you want in the human world," Sky Wolf said. "And you're only selling one censor. Both of us are trapped in ice hell, and all I want is to leave. Besides, I am only at the Emperor level of undying. Me leaving is not a threat to you humans whatsoever." Emperor undying? Even Universe Knights weren't influential in the human race and the demon race. "No," Luo Feng said, shaking his head. "You're not selling the censor, even for a treasure," Sky Wolf said. He stood up abruptly and sharply became aggressive. The 5 servants were glaring at Luo Feng. Luo Feng looked at Sky Wolf and kept shaking his head. "No deal." It was not because Luo Feng was inflexible, selling one censor was nothing. Besides, adventuring in the universe could sometimes prompt different races to cooperate under some special circumstances. Luo Feng didn't care about one censor. What he really cared about was the price. 1 treasure? Not enough. 2? I'll give you the treasure I'm currently using. Sky Wolf growled and glared at Luo Feng. 2 treasures for 1 censor, that is cheap on the outside. This is the greatest price I'll pay. Take it, human. Even if you're adventuring in a secret area of the universe, it's not easy to get 2 treasures. Luo Feng looked up at Sky Wolf and said mildly, "No deal." "No deal?" Sky Wolf was startled. "Don't you know these are both treasures? Do you even know how many treasures there are in Ice Hell? Even invincible emperors like me, or Silver Eye, have no more than 3. I'm keeping only the most important and most suitable one while giving the other 2 to you. How dare you?" Sky Wolf roared. "Don't you be so outrageous. I can use these 2 treasures to hire a Universe Knight to kill the most powerful of the human race. I'm not asking you to betray the human race, all I'm asking for is a censor. I'll ask you one more time, will you sell the censor?" Luo Feng shook his head. "No." Sky Wolf was infuriated. The entire palace was filled with belligerents. Sky Wolf vanished from its throne while Luo Feng opened his wings with 52 black balls around his hand. "Howl!" Sky Wolf appeared right at where Luo Feng had been with its hoofs bent. He stared at Luo Feng bellicosely. Luo Feng stood afar with 522 black balls floating around his hand and said, "I thought you made a promise to all of Ice Hell that you wouldn't attempt to kill me." "It depends," Sky Wolf said hoarsely with its teeth exposed. The 3 strange scars on his forehead were squirming. "Goddamn human blocking my hope of getting out. Tell me now, I shouldn't kill you." "That sounds about right," said Luo Feng. "But you should know that if you do kill me, you'll never get the access authority to the censor. Without the access authority, the censor is useless to you." Luo Feng looked at the 52 black balls in his palms. "Besides, you can't kill me. Even Silver Eye, who's proficient in time law, couldn't do that." Luo Feng stared at Sky Wolf. "As for you, your edge is space law, but I'm faster than you. How are you going to kill me?" Sky Wolf was as belligerent as one could be, but Luo Feng treated it with nonchalance. They looked at each other from afar. "Okay," Sky Wolf said in a deep voice. "I bet your status is pretty high, given your power, and it's much easier to get treasures on the outside. No wonder these 2 treasures can't attract you. Well, I'll trade the censor for the most important treasure I have." "Oh?" Luo Feng was bewildered. Sky Wolf possessed something more valuable? "These 2 treasures will not belong to you, but I'll give you this one instead," Sky Wolf said as he glared at Luo Feng. "I acquired this treasure by chance. This is something worth fighting for, even between Universe Knights. I killed a weak barbarian and got this in Ice Hell." "What is this mysterious treasure?" asked Luo Feng. "Is it the invaluable?" He grinned. "I won't believe that." "Of course not," said Sky Wolf. That would set the universe knights crazy. However, this one is much more precious than a treasure, though it can't compare with the invaluable. Skywolf slightly lifted its hoof, and a hexagonal stone tablet the size of a human palm came into sight. There was a beast roaring on the tablet. The sculpture of the beast on the tablet made Luo Feng's heart tremble. He had seen several kinds of peculiar beasts, like the one on the 9-universe primal chaos tablet and the beast god. However, the beast on this tablet stirred some special feelings inside Luo Feng. "What is this?" Luo Feng said, grinning. "This is merely an ordinary stone tablet. The only thing special about it is the shape and the sculpture." "You call this treasure?" "Just penetrate your will into it," said Skywolf, staring at Luo Feng. "Then you'll understand. This is the token of beast god inheritance from the most powerful ancestral god school. Of course, it is much more valuable. The most powerful ancestral god school." Luo Feng was a bit confused. Even though he knew nothing about this school, token of beast god inheritance appealed to him. He reached out. "Let me see." "Use your godly power penetration," Skywolf said, watching Luo Feng. "As for the token, I'll keep it until there's a deal, and you may use your power to probe it." "You're too careful." Luo Feng glanced at Skywolf. "Humans are cunning," Skywolf urged him. "Just go check if you want it." Luo Feng looked at the hexagonal stone and injected an invisible spiritual force into it. The moment the force hit the stone, Luo Feng felt like he was entering an ancient world. "When I'm going to the land of inheritance with the token, I can receive inheritance from Beast God if I'm qualified. The coordinates are..." Luo Feng collected the information, which described the stone as the token of soil and space merging law. Luo Feng was a little disappointed, as he was practicing the merging law of gold and space. "Have you seen it?" Skywolf asked Luo Feng. "Make your decision." "Let me think about it," Luo Feng answered. "No need to rush. I've waited long enough to be patient." Skywolf stared at Luo Feng. Luo Feng stood there, frowning, whilst connecting to the virtual universe. Asterisk 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 asterisk. The virtual universe, inside the room of Luo Feng's manor. Luo Feng started to look up the necessary information on the laptop. He started by searching for the information of the school mentioned by Skywolf. Ancestral God School. Luo Feng's access authority was updated after he successfully got out of sector-level Primal Sky Mountain. Luo Feng said, his spirits brightened a bit as he started to read the information on the screen. Token of Beast God's Inheritance. Ancestral God School was the most powerful organization in the universe. It was as old as the universe, and the highest level belonged to the legendary 3 ancestral gods. 3 ancestral gods, 8 beast god, 72 holy deified generals, and 3,000 prophets. There was a fixed number for each position. Although there could be candidates, each beast god position could only be filled by one. Unless the original beast god fell, there wouldn't be a new beast god, and the same rule applied to deified generals and prophets. There were 3 forms of inheritance in Ancestral God School. The first was inheritance of prophets, the second was inheritance of deified generals, and the third was inheritance of beast god. Inheritance of beast god was the highest level of inheritance, with each of the 8 beast gods being a master of the universe. Hundreds of millions of races had followed the path of the beast god, and some of them had even received its inheritance and successfully trained themselves to reach the beast god's level. However, they still couldn't become a beast god unless the beast god they were following fell. Once one became the real beast god, its power would surge. That was why there was a fixed number for each position. Ancestral God School was open, and it neither participated in the battle for power nor needed a large territory, as there were only some 3,000 members in it. It was open to all the powerful creatures in the universe, and the inheritances they had were distributed across the universe to make sure they would be received by the right one. However, neither those who received the inheritances nor those who excelled at following the inheritances belonged to Ancestral God School, only the one who inherited the position. Ancestral God School didn't meddle in any wars. Other than the holy ancestral gods, only the beast gods, the deified generals, and the prophets were among all the races in the universe. Beast gods were the strongest, followed by deified generals and prophets. The inheritance crystals of prophets floated randomly in the universe and collected by one powerful one after another. However, the lands of deified general inheritance were fixed in a particular area. As for the lands of beast god inheritance, they were under ancestral god school's control, and one must show the token to enter the land. There were 8 tokens: golden and space, wood and space, soil and space, light and time, wind and time, and thunder and time. 8 merging laws represented the 8 paths of beast gods. There was a rule for humans that if powerful humans managed to find the token, they could keep it for themselves. If they found it to be useless, they could hand it in, and they would be rewarded treasures as valuable as the token. Sometimes, they might get another token. Luofeng was amazed after reading all this information. He realized how supreme Ancestral God School was and how small the number of members was. 3 ancestral gods and 8 beast gods, Luofeng said. How powerful are ancestral gods? I reckon they are as powerful as Teacher Mountain sitting dews. Only because of that could the Ancestral God School be the most powerful organization in the universe. Elite strategy. Ancestral God School followed the elite strategy. It didn't have an abundant number of members, but it surpassed the 6 peaks. I can trade this token for the token that suits me, Luofeng realized aloud. He was expecting something more. Skywolf, today is your unlucky day. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Ice hell inside the palace of Skywolf. Skywolf stared at Luofeng. You've made up your mind? Skywolf said. Luofeng nodded. Yes. Good. Now, do we have a deal or not? Skywolf said it more aggressively because it had a strong desire to go back to his clan. It was now an invincible emperor, where it was still lagging behind others at the same level, which stemmed from the lack of treasures. He was powerful enough, and all he needed were a couple of suitable treasures after which he could sharply improve his fighting and defending abilities. Luofeng looked at Skywolf. Deal, he said. Smart choice. Skywolf laughed and said, Human, give me the anonymous account sensor first. I need to check it. Luofeng frowned. Let's exchange our goods at the same time. Ha ha. Are you kidding me? Skywolf said. If I give the token to you directly, you can run out in no time and take away the access authority. Then how am I supposed to know whether or not you're telling the truth? Luofeng glanced at it and started to contemplate. Skywolf was really sneaky, and he didn't know whether he would be tricked or not. Makes sense. Luofeng threw out a quantum computer. A godly force caught the quantum computer. Filled with excitement, Skywolf stared at the quantum computer. While he was detained in Ice Hell, he was only mediocre, but now he was an invincible emperor, which would make his clan value him significantly more. Once he managed to get back, he would be specially trained by his clan, and he might become a universe knight. And based on his power, he wouldn't be an average knight. Do as I said, Skywolf growled. A figure came into view. It was a prepossessed, 9-meter-tall female with a great body and 6 wings. Yes, master, the female servant answered with respect and took the quantum computer. The female servant connected to the virtual universe. Skywolf looked at her with a thrill while glimpsing at Luofeng a couple of times. He was watching the scene in silence and monitoring everything in his virtual universe. He had high access authority and was one of the highest levels in the human race. He had reached this level by being the student of the Castellan and one of the top talents. In reality, Luofeng had constructed a local area network for that anonymous account, which meant he was the only one who used the account all along. For instance, there were lots of players of virtual games, and there were quite a few people drinking in the bar. However, these were all simulated, even Luofeng couldn't tell that it was fake. Do whatever you want to do, including sending the message, Luofeng muttered under his breath. Unfortunately, you're currently in private virtual network, and it's been cut off from the entire virtual universe. The female servant entered the game. Luofeng was monitoring everything. It was the number 3 game, which dated back to 30,000 years ago. It was completely normal for a well-functioning game to be operated for more than 100 million years, given that human history had started zillions of years ago and some games were extremely popular. The game could be maintained as long as there were profits. The female servant publicized the bounty mission. Luo Feng noticed that the servant started by transferring a small amount of money from an anonymous account of the first bank of the universe to herself, after which she released a bounty mission to the entire game. She logged off after staying there for a while. Inside the palace, Skywolf watched his servant. Finally, she said, "Master," there was no response. "Human!" Skywolf roared, becoming furious. "You're playing me." Luo Feng looked up at the enormous Skywolf and grumbled, "Yes, I was playing you. But you were playing me as well." "How did I play you?" Skywolf roared. "I was exactly following the deal, which says I can test whether it's authentic or not. And you say I am playing you. Do you really think I'm so stupid that I would allow you to connect to the virtual universe without the token? I still have a brain." Luo Feng smirked. "I bet you were trying to send the message to the demon race as a means of testing." Skywolf was dazed. Publicizing a bounty mission in a virtual game with countless players is indeed a smart move, Luo Feng said coyly. "There might be some spies among the players, and there's no way for the system of the virtual universe to know who the spies are." "Humph! You can send your message by this easily." Luo Feng looked at Skywolf with a baffling look. "If you had succeeded, my scanner would have meant nothing to you, and you would have achieved your goal. However, you would still have the inheritance token. Do you think you would really give it to me at that point?" "I always keep my promises," Skywolf answered in a hoarse voice. "Nonsense," Luo Feng sniggered. "I would be a joke if I believed the promise of an enemy race." Skywolf was stupefied and hesitant. "Tell me, Skywolf, how can I trust you?" Luo Feng said, studying him. Skywolf kept staring at the human in front of it. Skywolf, as a member of the royal demon race, was ruthless and cunning, and was the one in Ice Hell that perfectly manifested such characteristics. What was more, he was proficient in disguising himself. Still, even though he always acted kindly during the time he had been detained in Ice Hell, he did occasionally reveal his true self. He was, indeed, luring the human with his token and trying to send the message in the name of testing. Once he got a response, it would mean the message was received, and it wouldn't matter even if the human took away the access authority. By then, he wouldn't have to give the human the inheritance token. "What do you have in mind?" Skywolf said in a low voice. "Since we've played all our cards, let's be honest with each other from now on," Luo Feng said, carefully watching Skywolf. "There's only one rule. You give me the token first, before I give you the scanner." "No?" Skywolf roared. "What if you take the token and run away?" "Ha ha! You, as the master of Southern Ice Hell, fear that I'll run away?" Luo Feng gazed at it. "Who in Ice Hell doesn't know you're good at escaping?" Skywolf stared at Luo Feng with its blue eyes. Luo Feng shook his head. "I'm indeed good at escaping, but you're an invincible emperor. I don't have any other ideas if you're not on board with this one, unless you can offer me one." Skywolf sat there, pondering for a long time. He couldn't think of anything else. He couldn't come up with anything that could gain the trust of this cunning but cautious human. "I'll leave if you can't make a decision," Luo Feng said, shaking his head and smiling. "What's the point of having the token if you can never get out of Ice Hell?" "Wait." Skywolf gazed at Luo Feng with hesitation, then shouted, "Fine. I'll give you the token. But you must give me the access, and if it's still fake, I swear I'll have all the creatures in Ice Hell hunt you down." "Rest assured," Luo Feng said with a smile. "Have some faith in humans' reputation." "It's foolish to trust one's enemies," Skywolf growled and threw Luo Feng the token. "So, you do know it's a foolish thing to do," said Luo Feng. Luo Feng caught the token with his hands. The hexagonal tablet was heavy, and he could feel its extraordinary nature just by holding it. He was excited and thought to himself, I can trade it for another token, perhaps the one of special inheritance. This token is far superior to the inheritance of Demon Note deified general, and maybe I can get an incredible reward. The access is granted, Luo Feng said to Sky Wolf. Yes, master, the female servant said with respect and connected to the virtual universe with her mind. Luo Feng looked at her in silence, then connected to the virtual universe. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Virtual universe, the peak of Thunder Island, inside the palace of the Primal Chaos City leader. Luo Feng went to see the Primal Chaos City leader right after he read the information of the Ancestral God School and the token online. The interior of the palace permeated an air of chaos. Teacher, Luo Feng greeted with veneration. The airflow conveyed the voice of the Primal Chaos City leader. What happened? It's about the Beast God token, Luo Feng said. A figure covered with a golden cape walked out. The Primal Chaos City leader looked serene, though there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. He was a bit irritated by how Luo Feng diverted his attention, but he had to admit that Luo Feng was indeed lucky. Luo Feng once fought Haiti Emperor as Blade River Emperor in the Outer Domain battlefield, which was a piece of widely spread news, and the Primal Chaos City leader had known about it all along. Although Luo Feng turned off the synchronized transmittal of the virtual universe, lots of powerful ones among the human race had videotaped the battle. The Primal Chaos City leader was surprised that Luo Feng had fought Haiti Emperor as a sector lord in the first place, and then he noticed that the black balls were a series of treasures. Like the invaluable, there were different levels of treasures. Treasures could be rated by different functions. Offensive treasures were not as precious as defensive ones, which were inferior to sealing ones. And different treasures came with different powers. Series of treasures were definitely top tier. The 7 blades owned by 7 Blade Emperor were a series of treasures. How did my student obtain the token right after he got the series? The Primal Chaos City leader asked, startled. The token was certainly as valuable as a series of treasures. The token stood for the chance to be in the Ancestral God School. Allow me to elaborate, Luo Feng answered. Please do, the Primal Chaos City leader said. I went to Black Flower Secret Region this time. Luo Feng started to tell his stories without revealing his real intention, which was to find the black metal. I didn't panic after being captured in Ice Hell, as my core is outside. I treat it as the practice field. Although the 5 invincible emperors are almighty, I have some chances. The invincible emperors only have a few treasures, and defending treasures are scarce. I plan to train myself in Ice Hell, and once I've completed the 3rd chapter of Nanshan 7 move, I can exercise the 2nd form of Shot Wu Wing, which can disturb space. By then, even Universe Knights won't be able to seal me, not to mention the invincible emperors in Ice Hell. Being the fastest one makes me undefeatable, Luo Feng went on. I'm almost as powerful as them now. When I complete the 3rd chapter and become stronger, I'll have no problem suppressing and severely injuring them. I bought a considerable number of treasures before, and I'll give the purple clock to one of the invincible emperors I might defeat and control in the future. As long as I have the defending treasure and an invincible emperor servant, I'm confident that I can defeat them one by one. This was my original plan, which was to train myself and defeat them one by one. The Primal Chaos City leader nodded. Luo Feng was, indeed, filled with aspirations, daring to fight invincible emperors as a sector lord. However, the invincible emperors could barely reach the threshold, as they had too few treasures and were rather inferior to the real ones like True Yang Emperor. However, I found this Beast God token, Luo Feng said, and he briefly summarized the story of Sky Wolf. If Sky Wolf buys my story, I can get the token without having to put up a fight. However, even if it knows more about my intentions, I'll try to get the token in the first place. I can't stand staying in Ice Hell for 10,000 years after seeing the token. I want to get out and go to the land of inheritance. I want to be stronger. Luo Feng added with reverence, I can't get out unless I stay here for another 10,000 years. I need your help, teacher. Teacher? I'll have to give the scanner to Sky Wolf if I want to get the token. My first plan is to escape after getting the token. Sky Wolf can't do anything, as I'm proficient in defending myself. The second plan is to let it connect to the virtual universe and send a message, after which the demon race will appear, and so will teacher. Would teacher give some advice? If teacher prefers neither of those options, I can wait here for another 10,000 years. The primal Chaos City leader looked at Luo Feng and beamed. I can see that your mind is fixated on the land of inheritance, and it will be torturous for you to stay here, he said. Let Skywolf send the message. Although it's an invincible emperor now, it was weak before, and the demon race won't believe everything it says. It's impossible for the demon race to send a universe master. Even if it is a universe master, I can overpower that, said Luo Feng. Get the token first, in case the demon race sends a universe master to protect Skywolf, the primal Chaos City leader said. The token is indeed valuable. My body is wandering in the universe these days and would slaughter for one of the invaluable. It's worth the effort to get a token. Yes, Luo Feng said. Okay. The primal Chaos City leader looked at Luo Feng expectantly. He felt that he was indeed lucky, and it would be a waste for him to spend 10,000 years in ice hell. If he went to the land of inheritance, he might encounter some other rewards. After all, Luo Feng kept pleasantly surprising him after becoming his student. The only thing that slightly bothered him was Luo Feng's choice to follow both the path of a spirit reader and that of a warrior. This video will end here.